Obviously, there is going to be, and it started already, a clear shift towards from the ICE to electric vehicles. So the industry obviously has to get prepared, and they are already preparing in many ways, etc. and all. So this change that you see, which will happen, what is the kind of roadmap that you have, say, in next 5 years?
Just because of adoption of EV from a regulatory perspective as well as customer demand perspective is increasing, every day. From an India perspective, if you look at the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler segment, that's moving towards or converting from ICE to EV much quicker. From a global perspective, you're right, the number is very small at the moment in terms of percentage of vehicles globally. From a supply-based perspective, it means multiple things. One, gives companies an opportunity to supply into a brand new market segment, as well as an opportunity to supply more in terms of different components, because with electrification will come connectivity, will come telematics, will come autonomous, will the ecosystem, the infrastructure. So there's a lot of opportunities that will emerge with this whole electric vehicle revolution. As far as ACMA goes, we have close to 800 company as 800 member companies in ACMA. The executive committee consists of most of the large companies, and 60%, when we did a survey recently, were ready to supply into electric vehicles, and 40% will be ready in the next year or so. So we're sitting in a good position in terms of readiness to supply to EVs. Just in the PLI alone, the auto component industry has 75 companies that will participate. The criteria demands that we invest 250 crores over the next 5 years for eligibility to gain from the benefits of the PLI scheme. So if you take that and multiply that by the 75 companies, you're looking at an 18,600 crore investment just by way of that. And that's a minimum investment. I feel that the most of the investment that will happen today in the auto component industry, other than capacity enhancement or increasing capacity, and that's also because numbers are going up. Commercial vehicle has come back. Those numbers are going up. So, we're going to have to increase capacity in that sense. Most of the new investment will go into supply to electric vehicles. And to justify this in terms of volumes, we're going to have to look at the global market.
What is the rough number of investment in the next 5 years that you...
So I can't put that down. I can't tell you that because you're talking about an industry. And it's difficult.
I mean, if you take ACMA members itself, because they...
I mean, if you take ACMA members, I won't be able to tell you that, that number. But I'm saying 18,600 crores is a minimum requirement, because that's the criteria. That's a minimum requirement. You're obviously looking at much more. So if you just sort of, do some mathematics around that, it depends on how much of supply will go into EV and how it will increase gradually for company by company. And will also depend on the kind of market that they're supplying into. If you look at the market opportunities that exist today, you look at the United States, you look at Europe, they've all opened up for the Indian manufacturing industry.
What is the size do you think the Indian market would be, say, around over 3 to 5 years down the line? What is the...
So I think, it'll definitely be north of 5 million, right? We're already the fourth largest in the world. The 18,600 is investment in future technologies. It doesn't necessarily mean EV.
Okay.
So let's be very clear on that, because I know, there's a lot of confusion in this. When the government came out with this scheme, they're talking PLI scheme, they're talking about investment in future technologies, which obviously gives you a benefit in terms of bringing a technology into India that doesn't exist. This could be for localization, and it can be for export. So there's a mix here. If you look at last year, our exports from ACMA grew for the auto component industry grew 76%. if you look at China plus one strategy, that's also something that we will definitely benefit from. I recently read a report that Apple is moving a lot of production from China to India. So business will come to India, not because of cost, but because we have superior technology. So we're going to have to invest in technology. And given the fact that the PLI schemes are encouraging companies to invest in future technologies, that's really the direction we're headed. And that will result in more business opportunities from outside of India, as well as deep localization, which then relieves us of the dependence on imports.
You have to look at a global market for electric vehicle components. So are there areas where, or specific areas where we have the strength where we could sort of be the sort of export hub to the world?
When you look at steering, you look at drivetrain, you look at all these components, even motors now, the R&D spend, everything is increasing in terms of us being able to supply, create a global hub for manufacturing in India. I think the choke point really is electronics. And that's something that we're going to have to invest heavily in. Even look at alliances between the automotive industry and the electronic industry to see how we can localize, the electronic in terms of building of electronics in India and reduce our dependence on imports.
Is ACMA trying to do something on that front? I mean,
yeah, so ACMA is working with IIT Delhi in the Sonipat campus, as well as IIT Bombay, for looking at electrification in terms of collaboration with industry and academia. So I think the industry academia connect, having that connect is very important. We've also got a series of centers of excellence where we're working with our member companies to help them move towards electrification. We're also in conversation with the electronics industry to see how we can build a group who can then look at localization of electronics in India. When you look at investments for electrification and future technologies, you need a scalable market. That's why the KPITs are today supplying into the export market, because that's where the volume is. And that gives us confidence that when that volume comes here or when the product is required here, we have a supply base.
Do you see this whole move in the next 5-6 years? You will see our auto component global company as sort of something like a Bosch coming from India, which sort of
absolutely. I mean, that's really the aim. We need to build the next Bosch or the next ZF. And to do that, again, I come back to, we're going to have to continuously invest in technology, invest in talent, and put the resources where we're required to put resources, and just keep working towards building better products that are future ready, that are that can sort of cater to what the end consumer demand is. So if you look at companies like Bosch, their success really has been in innovation. And, we as Indian companies are going to have to innovate more. R&D and testing is extremely important. Today, our spend on R&D is very low compared to
what is it at an average?
It's in the industry average is 0.5%. So, it needs to be, I would say, north of 3%. We need to invest more in technology. And that's the way we can build the next Bosch from India.
I think a lot of companies which are looking at acquisitions are also looking at acquisitions from the point of view of acquiring R&D, which is already existing. So it's not just creating a manufacturing.
And the component space is changing. You've got telematics, you've got connectivity, you've got software. You talk about KPIT. I mean, you've got autonomous, and it doesn't have to be autonomous in terms of self-drive, which is level 5. It could be 1, 2, and 3. Park assist is autonomous. So that the nature of the industry, the competitive landscape is changing. The association that ACMA has created with startups is phenomenal because we've brought a lot of startups into our fold. We're working with startups, member companies that are well established are incubating startups, working with startups. So in fact, we're working with PwC on this initiative. And I was at one of the meetings about a month ago, and I walked around the room to look at the startup, the startups that we were working with, and I didn't see a single piece of metal or plastic on any of the tables, which I would have seen 5 years ago. Now it's all computers and chips and that kind of stuff. So the nature of the industry is changing. The nature of what we're supplying is changing. So we're going to have to adapt to this, and we can only adapt to this if we continuously invest in technology.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Surajeet. Thank you. Good to
Bye.
see you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.